Okay, class. So to create something like this, first we have all these layers that I'll be explaining to you while we'll be getting there. So for the starting, we'll be simply taking a sample that is your jade toad, okay, and simply open it. Once you have it, just delete all this layer because we just need the base model, okay. So from here, once you have this model or any model which you want to create those layers, first process will be our base layer. Okay. So let's give it some base layer, and that base layer will help us to brighten it or darken it while we'll be creating other layers on top of it. Okay. So let's name it as base. Okay. And we can enable its roughness to something till here. Okay. From here, we create another fill layer. So this fill layer will be your stone pattern base. Okay, so there will be few patterns on top of your stones. Now, there can be different kind of stones, but mostly if you think of a hard stone, that will be kind of grayish or bluish gray, right? If you want to create something like a dirt, you can also change the color according to that. So we'll be choosing something, let's say like this, okay? Or we can also darken it a little bit. Okay, once we have this, we'll be start creating those patterns. So before we apply something, okay, we can apply all these settings, but before that we have to create a black mask. So the role of black mask is removing all those color from the top of this layer or this object. But while we add these generators, this paint layer, this fill layer, only those exception will be, or the white layers, the white pattern they have will let the color pass through it. Okay. So the first one that will be taking it as add fill. In add fill, we'll be using clouds. Okay. So from these options, I'll be using the third cloud 3, and we'll be tweaking its setting a little bit. So if you want to create more organic, you don't have to actually change it. The further things I'm doing, I'm going for more of a paint style, okay, or more of an anime style look. So if you want to create natural, you don't have to add anything on top of this. But after this, I'll be adding the next thing that will be my filter, and it helps me to create it something like a paint layer, okay, or that chunk pieces. So I'll be scaling it up from here, and you will start seeing that these kind of patterns, these chunky patterns have been made. Okay. So now that we have here, we can also add one more thing that is called, in a filter, it's sharpen. Okay. So if I select sharpen, it will make it look like it's getting out or it's separated kind of patches. Okay, so I can decrease it. I don't want to make it that much sharp, and I can also balance out these things. So don't worry if you are confused till here. You can change these things to make it look more kind of something like this. Okay, so once you have this, a stone have a different color patterns in it. Okay, so for the bluish color we have three shades. Okay, 1 2 3, and the base color that was here. The other one that I can make is I simply have to duplicate it. So Control D for duplicating. And the next pattern, first I'll be changing the scale size. Okay, let's say the bigger chunks I'll be creating, increase in the contrast, so less number of color will be passing through and creating a balance in it. Now from here I can also change its rotation or pattern. So like it's on top of this layer, it's not letting pass through this thing, but I will just simply decrease it. or what else I can do is I can multiply. So only things that will be passing through is inside from its darker layers. Or I can change it to color dodge. So both the layers will be there. They work differently for their own values. Okay. And as both of these are passing through, so they are not creating an issue. Okay. I can change the color from blue to something, let's say dark color or much more light color. Okay. And the setting remains the same. So here you have this balance or these values or this order to have their pattern. Okay. You can also change it by changing the blur slope. You can increase the intensity to make it more blurry. Okay. You can notice it here. If I decrease it, it will be something again like a chunk. If I start increasing it, it start disappearing by decimating. Okay. The edges. So you have that certain kind of pattern. Sorry for this one, this was under it, so I disabled it to see only for this layer. Okay. If you want to change the color for this one also, or you also want to change those blurry lines, okay, you can change it from here even for this one, and you can add or decrease the normal to let it pass through till the surface values. Okay. Next thing, if you also want to add one more layer, it's totally on you. Okay, you can again duplicate it. You can again select some other color. Let's say I already have these two colors. I want more of a muddy look. Okay, so I'll be opting something like this, and then it will be combining those colors with the underlayers. And as it's not normal, so you are not seeing it. Now that it's normal, you can see those random sand or mud type of textures. Okay, we'll be changing few settings from here. We don't need sharpen for it. Okay, we can delete the sharpen in this one, and even in this one we also don't need sharpen that much. Okay, so we delete these two and we change the setting a bit so it looks more muddy, but it also combines with it. Okay, and the scaling part we can change. So let's say you want to create it as more dusty, then you can increase the balance, or you can decrease the contrast and then try to increase the balance. Okay, so the chunks will be much more darker. Okay, once you have something like this, you have a base layer on top of which your moss will be created. Okay, so to create a moss layer, you again have to opt for other base fill layer. Okay, so I've been naming it as moss dark. Okay, because the color of the moss that will be on the base can be darker or it will be lighter. So we will just change the position of darker and lighter to put on top of each other to see the result differences. Okay, so first I'll be opting the dark moss value. The darker moss will be something like this. Okay, from here you'll be using again the black mask, and in the black mask you have to come up here and add generator. Okay, so the generator that we'll be using is mask editor. We could have used other ones also, but the main issue is the mask editor have all those options within the same menu. Okay, if you come up here, you'll be seeing the ambient, occlusion, curvature, world space normal, position, thickness. So it is a combination of 4 or 5 kind of generators. Okay, it's also its advantage and disadvantage that you can apply 2 or 3 things on the same generator, but sometimes you cannot change its base value because these are the base value. Okay, global blur, global balance. So by default your curvature will be enabled. Just decrease it. Okay, and you have to enable the world space normal. Remember that it takes data from your baking maps. If your maps are not baked here, okay, it cannot take data. Simply you can come up here and you can see the curvature or the kind of map it will be taking. Ambient occlusion for your positioning, okay, for your height, your band normals. So these data it's capturing to know where it have to put the material onto, okay. Okay, so from here, once you enable this into the master data, you're seeing these things. So you have to open it up once. It have multiple settings in it. Okay. So why you're seeing the mouse only on the upper side? The reason being is you by default have this enabled that from top to bottom direction, you'll be seeing the mouse. Okay. So the substance painter is having this direction as Y value. So from positive Y to negative Y, it's projecting a surface data, and on surface data, the texture or the paint layer have been added. Okay. So if I change it from this to front and back, so your mouse will be in this direction. Okay. You can change it as per your need. So we only need this one right now. The issue that I was saying is if I increase or decrease this one, okay, it doesn't just affect your workspace normal, it also affects your curvature and other details if you start giving it. That's why we don't use mask editor for all of the things within the same menu most of the time. Okay. Now from here, you just have to keep a balance between these things. Okay. I will also show you what will happen if I totally decrease the balance. Balance is the area that it will be covering up. Okay. Contrast is the sharpness, okay, between the blurriness and your mouse. So if you increase it too much, it will be something like this. But you also need that space, that area that's getting through or spreading out, okay. The blur is again how much area it should be covered from the top value, okay. With decrease to too much, you will try to cover up all the values onto even to the edges one, okay. Now that I have my texture here, the one thing is no moss is this sharp on the edges. Okay, I have to fix those edges menu. So I'll be coming up here. I'll be adding a filter that is called blur slope. Okay, the one we have chosen earlier. What it will be doing is it will be creating those paint type of layer even for the edges ones. Okay. Now in most of the places it can work out fine, but for these values it's not working fine. So you have to increase its intensity, but while you are increasing, you're seeing that the pattern is coming off from the edges. Okay. To fix this, you have these values, intensity divider. So right now it's only one. You will see the difference between the values or the size of these chunks. Okay. I'll change it to 10. Now it's coming more on the edges and the more deviation and the smaller size is there. If I come to 100, it's hard to see, but if you try to create a lot of differences, you can see a few changes. So I guess the 10th one works much far better. And we decrease it to something around here. Okay. Now the help that it's having is it's also coming on top of this corners. Okay. It's getting up from the corners even for these ones. Now this is the darker moss. I'll be simply duplicating it. Okay. To create a moss light. Okay. So I have the copy. Now I have to change the color to something lighter. Okay. Let's say I have this one. They have the same value. So I have to change first these things. The area that is covering up should be lesser than the first one, the earlier one. The contrast between the things that is spreading out can be more or can be less depending on the need. So see, that is going up in this direction like a moss, okay? And the blurriness if you need or you don't need, okay? So I just need it to start getting up on these directions. So I decrease it a little more. Okay, and it's almost done till here. So difference that it will be making if we change their color is, if I make this one darker and this one lighter. Okay, so it's like where it's more thickness. Okay, it becomes much more darker, and where it's spreading out it's much more lighter color. Okay, so something like this. And for this one you can choose it to create something like this. Okay, now these things are done. I have to cover up the edges only. For the edges one, I have two new things. The first one is, let's create either the dirt. Okay, so to create a dirt I'll be creating a new fill layer. Let's name it as dirt. I check the color that is brown. Okay, let's say these dust values will be filled inside its data. Okay, so I create a black mask, and here I'll be adding a generator that is called simple dirt. Okay, once I have this, it will try to fill up the places with the dirt value. So we have to fix it up, or it's fine if your dirt is there. You can make it much more darker or make it much more lighter. To cover these things up now, okay, your mouse should be on top of your dust. You can change its position. Okay, or if you're not changing its position, you also have to cover up the edges. For edges, we have another layer that is called your curvature. Okay, so everything that is within this data, we'll be creating it as similar to this green, let's say. Okay, let's keep it a lighter color right now. Add a black mask, add a generator, and the generator is been called curvature. Okay, so those curvature lines have this data. I can blur it out to more to capture those dust data. Okay, and I can change its color to something matching to the existing one. I'm just trying to match these color now. Okay, the edge should be a little bit darker, then there's a lighter color, and again there is a darker color to cover up those area where moss should be thick. Okay, we can change the dirt position to something in between so that it can cover up certain areas. Okay, and we can also decrease either its normal or the grunge amount. Okay, Okay, so it's made till here. You can also work out with your stone. Okay, the layer that we were having here, you can decrease or increase its intensity to check this stuff out. Okay, and I guess it's been made till here. You can also tweak it as per the need. If you don't want your mouse to be covering up a lot of areas, you can decrease it up, you can make it less blurry, and it will result in something like this. Okay, so if any one of you have any doubt, they can ask. Nahin? Okay, so right now just start creating the same mouse kind of texture with the jade tool that you have in the sample files. Okay, and if you have any doubt, you can ask me in between. बताया था तुम्हें रिकॉर्ड हो रहा है, बीच में ही पूछना है तुम्हें भी ना. आप बताओ क्या पूछना है तुम. हाँ. Yes, you can increase or decrease the height. Let's say the top light mouse, or the basically this is the darker one now. Okay, you have to come up here and you can add height. Okay, and it will be something like this. You can also change its roughness because the moss is kind of wet, so you can decrease it, but try not to decrease it too much or it will be much more shiny object. Okay, and the under layer can be less shiny than this, so we can decrease the roughness, or sorry, increase the roughness to make the difference between these two layers. Okay, and also you can give it some height, not that much. Okay, it's done till here. Same thing for the dust, you can also add it, and for the other stuff.